Welcome to Men Making a Difference, PGSAO men who inspire and motivate.
Hello, Jason Abbott, and thank you so much for being with me today. You know, oftentimes the community gets to hear from me about what is going on in the state's attorney's office, but you're on the front lines working hard every day. So I wanted the community to get to know you a little bit as well. So why don't you tell us about your role in the office?
Sure. Good afternoon, Madam State's Attorney. I'm Jason Abbott. I'm Principal Deputy State's Attorney to Ms. Braveboy, and I work side by side with her, assisting in implementing the visions that she has for the office.
So who or what inspired you to become a prosecutor?
I would say I was led to becoming a prosecutor by really my high school principal from Good Counsel High School, where I attended high school. He was the one that pointed me in the direction of becoming a prosecutor and beginning my career in Montgomery County State's Attorney's Office. Those people definitely enhanced that desire and put me on this path to becoming a career prosecutor.
You know, you've tried some of the most complex cases here in our office, including State versus Sean Urbanski, which we'll get into a little later. But tell me, what motivates you each day to do the work that you're doing?
What motivates me is really giving back to the community. I look at being a prosecutor as giving back to the community, representing our community, and being in a position to help people as they become involved in the criminal justice system.
So what unique perspective do you bring to this work?
I think I bring in the perspective of being like a lot of the people that we encounter in the criminal justice system. As a Black man, you know, we do come in contact with a lot of young Black men. I myself I still consider myself a young Black man, and I've dealt a lot with young people throughout my career, and throughout my hobbies, I deal a lot with young people. So I do bring that perspective of, you know, putting myself in their position.
So I know that it is difficult to do the work that you do in light of the fact that there's so many people who look like you and members of your family who we encounter in the justice system. And some of our cases are really tough. They're difficult, but we try them, and we work really hard to make sure that we deliver justice. So why don't you tell us about one of your most challenging cases, and tell us a little bit about how you felt in terms of your obligation to deliver justice.
And I know you said we would touch on the Sean Urbanski case, but that was one of my most challenging cases, in that
we can touch on it right now. So go right ahead.
Okay, that was one of the most challenging cases that I worked on, and the thing about it, as far as bringing justice, really was how far that case reached people. It reached, you know, so many people in our local colleges, from University of Maryland, Bowie State University. It was something
you know what, Jason, I want to just cut you off just for a second, because some of our viewers may not be familiar with that case. So can you give a little bit of background, and then, you know, continue to talk about the challenges presented in that case?
Sure. The State versus Sean Urbanski involved the murder of Lieutenant Richard Collins back in May of 2017 on the University of Maryland's campus. Sean Urbanski was a white male who stabbed Richard Collins, who is a Black man. He stabbed him, killing him on that night, really bypassing the other people. Richard Collins was with a white male and an Asian female, and Sean Urbanski bypassed those two and picked out Richard Collins and stabbed him and killed him.
So tell the viewers a little bit about, you know, how the case was charged and some of the challenges that you faced in prosecuting that case, and also the outcome.
So that case was charged. The way that case was charged was Sean Urbanski was charged with first-degree murder of Richard Collins and committing a hate crime that resulted in death of Lieutenant Collins. And that was it was one of the more rare occasions where the Maryland hate crime statute was involved and was charged. And the complexity of it was that, Sean Urbanski didn't necessarily yell something like a racial epithet or anything like that. It was really by his actions that we had to prove that this murder was committed because Lieutenant Collins was Black. During the trial, we presented evidence that, this murder was committed because Lieutenant Collins was a Black man. But, the presiding judge ruled that we were, by statute, that the state had to prove that the murder was committed. The only factor that the reason why this murder was committed was because Richard Collins is a Black man. The judge felt that we proved that that was one of the factors, but not the sole factor. Mm-hmm. And based on his interpretation of the statute, he dismissed that charge. Ultimately, we still were able to prevail that it was the first-degree murder. Mm-hmm. And, we're still pending sentencing in that case.
Very good. And then we worked together with the Collins family to get the hate crime statute modified in the state of Maryland. So now, as of October 1st, the state would have to prove that hate was a substantial motivating factor in the commission of a crime as opposed to the only factor. So it was, I think, maybe clarifying. I look at it as clarifying language because of the way that the judge in this case interpreted the old statute. So justice comes in many forms. We get it in the courtroom, and sometimes we get it in the halls in Annapolis. And so it was great to work with the Collins family and members of my team here in Prince George's County to get our hate crime statute changed so that we can effectively prosecute hate crimes that may occur here in Prince George's County. So I know that case was tough. I know it weighed on you personally because I saw you as you were trying that case, and even before the trial started, working with the Collins family, who were in so much pain. So tell me, because this is not the only case that you've tried here in the county and throughout the state, how does this job affect you personally?
Personally, it affects me in that I am really, to me, it really affects me personally in that I'm really concerned about the well-being of people and the well-being of people within the county. I know that, having lived in the county for over 20 years and having the opportunity to work in the state's attorney's office, I definitely have concern for people and for the people of this county, but the people throughout Maryland. I think that this job just makes me really, very concerned about the things that people go through, the effect that crime has on them. And it's one of the concerns that I take with me, every day is really, what can we do to really help people? And that's just how this job has helped me look at things. I look at things as how certain things affect people, how crime affects people.
Absolutely. And, there's been a lot of discussions, and I know that you and I have had discussions around police reform and also criminal justice reform. And it's really a part of our national conversation. And it's also a part of the local conversation. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts, or have you kind of tell our viewers, what are some of the challenges and opportunities that we have now with the work that we do?
I think some of the challenges is really trying to I think when we look at police reform, when we think about police reform, and I've looked at it as really overall criminal justice reform, we're letting the people know, the public know that, how these cases are investigated and how these cases are prosecuted. The main goal is to obtain justice. And I think that expanding the transparency into how justice is obtained into, I think that's very important. And I think that's necessary. I think the people need to know that, the police as well as the prosecutor's office are handling these cases the right way. And I think that, the challenge to that is I don't know that everybody sees it as that's what we're doing, but that is the goal, is to really just, make the whole process transparent so that the public can have faith that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of it is conversation. And I know that you and I have been a part of a lot of community conversations, some that we have initiated, some that have been initiated by our clergy community, our nonprofit community, our advocacy community, and just residents here who want to hear from us, who want us to hear from them, who want to see some important changes. And so as prosecutors, or I call us problem solvers, that community interaction and connection is so critical. And so we are really grateful to have someone like you in our office, because I think you bring a perspective that is needed in the system. You also bring a level of compassion and understanding and, quite frankly, common sense to look at, do we need to try this case? Is there other alternatives depending on the nature of the offense and the criminal history of the defendant? And looking at alternatives to incarceration is something I know that you and I have talked about, and something that we encourage our line prosecutors to engage in. And now you actually have kind of a new initiative that you're working on for the office. And why don't you talk about, first of all, talk about your men's virtual pre-Father's Day cookout, and then some of the things that have come about as a result of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a men's group that we have put into place here in the state's attorney's office with the goal of reaching and encouraging young men in our community. And we had an event last year that was a success. And given the COVID challenges, we had a virtual men's cookout this year, which was a huge success. And out of that, and with some of the relationships that we've made, we're working to put those relationships to use and figuring out how we can help emerging adults in our community. Our office comes into contact with a large number of emerging adults, and we want to work on what we can do for them to help them, if they have been involved in the criminal justice system, how we can help them not become involved again, and reaching emerging adults so that they don't become involved in the criminal justice system. But we're focused on trying to reach young adults, mentor them, and help them in the choices that they make as they move forward in their life.
Yeah, and a lot of our focus is on men, but we also are working with our women as well.
Absolutely.
But when you look at it, the majority of people who enter our system are male. But we also see trends with women committing certain types of offenses and girls. And so we're also looking at creating a similar program for women and girls. So we are excited that you have taken the lead on this important project for our office. And I think that it will result in some really great success, because at the end of the day, it's not about how many prosecutions we have. It's about how many prosecutions we didn't have to move forward with because the crime never got committed in the first place.
Absolutely.
And so that's where our focus should be. And I know that you share that philosophy. We will still, as we are obligated to protect the health and safety of our community. So we will absolutely continue to prosecute when necessary, because safety has to be number one.
Definitely.
We also know that the majority of crimes or offenses why people are arrested are not for felonies or even violent offenses. So there is an opportunity, I think, for us to make a real change and to get folks before they start committing those more serious offenses. But if they do commit a serious offense, throw away either, right? Because often these people are coming back to our communities. So, working with the men's group, developing our women's group, that is that social safety support system that we need to have in our community, because even if someone offended, that doesn't mean they're not a part of our community. They're still a part of our community, even if they have to spend a period of time incarcerated. Oftentimes, 9 times out of 10, they're coming back. So I'm grateful to, again, have someone like you helping to lead this office who understands that perspective. And so thank you so much for your time today. Do you have any parting thoughts, or maybe for aspiring attorneys or even prosecutors, people who might be interested in prosecution? Do you have any thoughts that you want to share before we sign off?
Absolutely. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for choosing me to work with you, because it's been an honor to work and implement the new vision that you have for prosecution. As far as aspiring prosecutors or aspiring attorneys that have an interest in prosecution, I do think that it is a way of giving back to your community. It is a way of helping others. And I think that, it puts us in a position really to the things that we think about the criminal justice system, that we think are wrong with it, it puts us in an opportunity to make a change. So I think that that's what we should look at prosecution as.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason Abbott, my principal deputy. I appreciate having you speak with our community today, and have a wonderful day, Jason, and everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.